Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. As always, we are powered by Betting.net. Betting.net, your best bet for finding the online sportsbook or casino that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at Betting.net. All right, guys, we are at March Madness. The Indiana Hoosiers is a 4 seed. We'll battle the Kent State Golden Flashes sometime after 10 o'clock, probably Friday night. The Hoosiers are the 4 seed. Kent State's the 13th seed. And we're going to discuss that game and what may or may not happen on Sunday's second round game if we get there. And, of course, as always, I'm Mike Goodpaster. And we've got Steve Risley, 1981 national champion, with his glasses on that tips off how old he is. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good.
And we've got a special guest. We like to call him, since it's March 15th coming up, he's our little lucky leprechaun, Brian Mohr. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great, you guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we got Michael on. Michael says, good evening. We hope you had a good time in Nashville with Becky. All right, guys, Indiana, Kent State, 4 seed versus a 13 seed. Steve, do you like this matchup? Do you like the draw Indiana got?
Well, I don't know the teams like you do because these are a lot of Ohio-based teams. So I don't follow it. I like the draw, but I don't know much about the opponents at this point. I'm sure you're going to cover all that, and it's going to tell us a lot more. I think one thing that it'll do for Indiana is hopefully take some of that feeling of, oh, my God, I got to play North Carolina or Duke or, some big name team. I mean, but Kent State, all these teams are dangerous now. So, and I'm sure like I said, you're going to talk about Kent State. So,
actually, Steve, I'd rather play North Carolina.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess my attitude about the draw is you got to beat everybody and anybody to win it all.
Yep. And
so it doesn't matter. The draw really doesn't matter.
Yeah, and there's a history here. Indiana's been a 4. Brian, Kent State's been a 13. That didn't work out too good for us in 2001. But 2002, I forgot about this game, but when I looked it up, that Elite 8 game, the Indiana Hoosiers shot 15 out of 19 from three-point range and beat the Kent State Golden Flashes 82-69. Antonio Graves, the great Chargers tight end, was the main player for Kent State on that team. When you look at this draw, it's Indiana versus Kent State. Winner plays Miami Drake. Up in the top bracket, you've got Houston, you've got Iowa, you got Auburn, you got Northern Kentucky. Do you like the draw? What are the chances the Hoosiers make a deep run here, Brian? And don't be a homer.
Actually, I hate the bracket. I mean, do I want to play Houston? Yes. Do I think we can beat Houston? Yes. I'm not 100%. I mean, Riz has been around long enough. All I have to do is bring up Cleveland State or Richmond Spiders. We've been knocked off by lower seeds in the past.
Hell, Kent State, 2001.
And Kent State, 2001, yeah. And we don't have the 3-point shooters that can go head-to-head with the Kent State shooters. So I'm nervous about this game. If we can get past this game, I think we can get to Houston. But this game's going to be the big challenge.
I disagree. I think to win this game, I think the big challenge is going to be if Drake beats Miami of Florida, because I actually think Indiana matches up well with Miami. I think Drake is the team I don't want to see in this bracket. I think Drake could easily be in the Sweet 16. And I think they could beat Houston. But, Steve, what's your take on this? Because I think the biggest concern for me as a Hoosier fan is this. I look at these teams. Kent State's got some weapons, especially in the backcourt. But when I look at it, my big concern is, are we going to show up and have the intensity for 40 minutes? And I know that you can't have the great intensity they had the last 2 minutes against Penn State. You can't have that intensity for 40 minutes, but there has to be a steady intensity here in the tournament game, or you could be out of here quick, Steve.
Yeah, well, I mean, half the teams are going to be out of there quick after the first weekend, first Thursday and Friday. Half the teams are gone. So, yeah, it's a good bet. We you got a 50-50 chance of being either gone or playing on for the weekend. I got, several questions and comments. One is, what the hell relevance does 2001 have to do?
It has nothing. It's a head-to-head matchup that we talked about because it's a 13
only.
versus a 4.
That means nothing.
The point is this, Steve. The point is, at 13 and a 4 seed, it seems like every year.
Well, then talk 13, 14. Forget about Kent State in 2001. Hell, that team's dead and gone.
Sure that we should just have a 5-minute show where we tell everybody about Kent State and we just wrap it up.
You got to have something. You got to have something to say.
There's history. Here,
secondly, to me, in playing in this tournament, while you're going to face a lot of unknowns because Indiana hasn't played Kent State since 2001.
Actually, they played them in 2002
we really don't know a lot
and beat them. So you obviously didn't pay attention to anything I said.
I think this is more about how well Indiana plays to its potential than it is the opponents. The opponents will have quirks and things that they do well. The coaching staff and the film staff will isolate all that, break it down, present a game plan to the team. Now, if the team chooses to follow, that falls back on playing to your own potential. If they listen to what the coaches tell them right now, this is where the one and done factor comes in. And this is where coaches that can coach one and done basketball usually succeed in this type of tournament, as opposed to coaches who can't, prepare a team for one game and then be prepared to move on and prepare the team equally for the next game. Thirdly, and the last point I'll make on this is, historically throughout this year, Indiana has shown great resilience in fighting till the end. Now, they don't necessarily fight for 40 minutes. I don't think there are many teams in college basketball that fight for 40 minutes, except Wooden's UCLA teams, which fought to get their asses to the bank with the money from Sam Giancana in their cars given to them.
Sam Gilbert,
Gilbert, same guy. And I think that, those guys fought for the entire time. Other than that, even against Penn State, they're with 2.5, 3 minutes to go, they're down 14 points and ended up losing by 1 or 2 points. They fell short, but they showed resilience and fighting back and clawing. I think that's a big thing to have in this tournament is just the unwillingness to just bend or break. They may bend a little bit, but they don't seem to break. This Indiana team does not seem to break. So I don't anticipate them breaking against Kent State. They may bend a little bit. Kent State obviously has some tools that you're going to talk about. But I'm more concerned about how well, as you said, Mike, how well Indiana's going to play to their own potential. Can they sustain it long enough to bend a little bit but not break and go from there? And if they do that, they're going to be fine. And Brian, I wouldn't be talking Houston right now. They got a hell of a long way to go to get to Houston.
That's true.
Okay, they got a lot of teams to play.
Got a long way to get to Drake or Miami right now.
Right, exactly. And I don't Houston doesn't even exist to me right now.
Right. The thing that blows me away, Steve?
Yeah.
This is a 13 versus 4 game. Indiana's only favored by 4. I know there's also a game in a bracket with a 7 against a 10, Utah State and Missouri, where the 10 is actually the favorite.
Yeah.
And I think what we see is anymore outside of the 16-1 games, we really have no clue what's going to happen. And we saw a 16-1 a few years ago. So you've always got that. So I think there is a lot more parity in college basketball. The talent's more spread
and Mike,
out
you and I have talked to that all season long about the parity.
I mean, Alabama to me should probably be a favorite.
There is no Gonzaga going for an undefeated season. There is no Kentucky going for an undefeated. There's no dominant team. Duke is not dominant anymore. I mean, there's a bunch of good, but Kansas, I would say Kansas is probably what I would say the best team in the tournament, and then Houston.
I would say Alabama. Second. Alabama is by far the best team right now.
I don't know. Biden initiated some serious gun control yesterday out here in California, so that may just totally dishevel the Alabama basketball team.
What's your language on the show? Don't be saying that name. Okay.
So you don't think Purdue will get past Memphis?
Oh no way. No. Memphis will beat Purdue.
Purdue's historically, Matt Painter, as much as I like Matt Painter, he just is not a good tournament coach. For some reason, his teams do not perform
He's
well.
a really good Big Ten team.
He's a great Big Ten coach. His teams perform well in the Big Ten. They're ranked high. But for some silly reason, more times than not, when this team like this Purdue team comes in as a number 1 seed, a big dog, they just historically have fallen on their face.
Well, how about this also, though? I think it's possible Florida International's the team that beats them also, because I think Memphis and Florida International's a toss-up.
Purdue's got their hands full.
Yeah, because Memphis athletically is a lot better than anybody in the Big Ten. And I think really when I watch college basketball, and especially this is really for most of this century, which is the last 23 years, Brian.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's not athletically as good as the Big 12 or conferences like that.
Well, I was gonna bring that up because everybody talked about how strong the Big 12 is. Why didn't they get 8 teams in the tournament?
Because they have 7. Yeah, and all 7 of their teams have a
Brian. They may be strong, they don't have the depth.
They have the depth.
Okay, they have the depth. Yeah.
They have less teams, Brian. You know that, right?
And they don't, and possibly they don't have the branded teams at the Big Ten. Hell, I was watching a clip from Harry Met Sally because Billy Crystal turned 75, and he's talking about Big Ten basketball teams. He's not talking about Big 12 basketball teams. He's talking about Big Ten, and this is a movie that's 30, 40 years old. And he's talking about the Big Ten. So I think there are probably teams from the Big Ten that probably shouldn't be in the tournament, but they're there.
Yeah, and this is the thing, Brian. They've only got 7 teams in the tournament. They've only got 10 teams in their conference right now. 70% of their conference is in the tournament.
Yeah. Which is a better percentage in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and the other thing is this. Kansas, Texas, Kansas State, Baylor, and TCU are all teams with the talent to make a run to the Final Four. In the Big Ten, I don't know that anybody is.
Brian, let me put it to you this way. Mike's exactly spot on. I hate it when Mike and I agree because we don't bicker at each other. But talk to me after Friday night, and let's see how many Big Ten teams are still in the tournament.
Yeah,
In the past, Brian,
I bet if 50% of the teams are still in the tournament after Friday night, I'll be amazed.
Well, I mean, we don't have a great history in the last 20 years of last in the tournament. We don't. But
yeah. So I understand the argument for the Big 12. I just think they don't get the recognition that the Big Ten gets, so they don't get the flavor that the Big Ten gets. But to say that the Big 12 is not as good as the Big Ten
is nuts.
Is knucking futz.
I didn't say they were. I just said they weren't as good. I just wasn't making the comment about the number of teams in the tournament.
They're far superior to the Big Ten. They have 5 teams.
This is why you spend your time on Facebook and we spend our time on YouTube. So
what?
Right.
Yeah.
That'll give us something to think about. All right. Michael says the Big gets no media respect now, so we need to play all in. Now, see, the thing is this. You get the respect you're earned. And when you haven't won a national championship between Cleves and Michigan State in 2000, it's hard to really complain that you don't get any respect because when everybody's gone in the first weekend of the tournament, why should anybody respect you? And the fact that they get 8 teams in tells me they get massive respect, more than what they should get.
Mike, do you have a list of the Big Ten teams in the tournament real quick?
Well, there's 8 in, so.
You know who they are?
Michigan State.
Okay, hang on. Go down the list. Start at the bottom and go up.
All right. Well, I'm just looking at the brackets. You got Michigan State. You got Indiana. You got Northwestern.
Wait a minute. Take them one at a time. Michigan State, they'll make it through the first Thursday and Friday.
No, they won't.
Yeah, they will. I say
they're playing USC in the first round.
And USC is poorly coached.
They've got a better basketball coach. They'll win that game.
Yeah, they won't.
USC's not that good. Trust me.
But like yes, if you go with the teams
I live
that
20
made
minutes from USC.
You got Northwestern. You got Northwestern playing Boise State.
Northwestern will make it through.
Boise State's a flat out better team, Steve.
Okay.
That's one of the games where the 10's favored over the 7.
All right.
And you got Illinois playing Arkansas.
Arkansas wins.
Arkansas wins that game.
You got Indiana, of course, we know.
Indiana wins that game.
And
You've got Maryland. You got Maryland against.
Oh, I'm missing the bottom half of the bracket here. What the heck?
Jeez.
So
Never mind.
you're
This
a
experiment's
moron.
me.
No, I got it. Never mind. All
You
right,
got
so
Penn State. You got
West
Penn
Virginia.
State. Maryland plays West Virginia. That's a toss-up game. I like West Virginia to win, but I'll take the 2.5 points. It's that close.
Well, they don't do spreads in college basketball games.
Yeah, they
Mike.
do. Yeah, they do.
No, just for bettors, not players.
They do it for everybody.
Okay, what about Iowa Auburn?
I would take Auburn. Just because Iowa, they're either hot or they're not. If they're hot, they can beat anybody. If they're not, they're probably going to lose. And they played poorly at the end of the season.
Bad experiment. Mike, how does Indiana match up man-to-man to Kent State? Do they have anything for our bigs inside?
Well, I would say everything we need to know. I can give you in about 5 or 6 points.
Okay,
Kent State can flat out play defense. I mean, this is a team that held Houston to 44 points. The Golden Flashes, they're 28-6 this year, and it's on the strength of the defense. They've held opponents to 40.3% shooting, which is 19th in the country. They only allowed 31% from three, which is 38th in the country. Kent State also averages 9 steals a game, which is 17th in the country.
That's a lot.
And they only allow 65.7 points. I think the issue here is Kent State guard Sincere Carey. Sincere Carey is 6'1". He's 180 pounds. He'll be the best guard on the court. He averages 17.6 a game. The only thing about him is he's a volume shooter, which means he only shoots, I think what I read was 31% from three-point range, but he only shoots 3 a game. He makes like 2 out of 6 on average, but he leads the team in assists at 5. He's in the top 5 with rebounds with 4. He averages almost 2 steals a game. And then you got Malik Jacobs, who's a big guard. And Malik Jacobs is the guy that I think may give Indiana even more trouble because I think he's a lot quicker than the Thompson and the Galloways. But he's 6'4", 190, averages 13 a game, shoots 40%, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. And he is the team's second leading scorer. You've got their big man is only 6'8", and that's Myron Thomas. He averages 10.7 a game. He shoots, but this is the thing that sticks out to me. And I have seen Kent State play in person. They played Northern Kentucky University the first game of the season. I'm like 20 minutes from NKU. They dominated NKU 79-57. NKU's not a terrible team. They're in the tournament. They're a 16 seed. But the Myron Thomas guy, he's a kid that could go outside and shoot threes. He shot, I think it was a little over 35% from three-point range. He's the team's top leading rebounder. And then you've got another guard in Jalen Sullinger, 5'10", 170, 8.6 a game, 43% from 3. He gives them a boost off the bench for the other 2 guards. So my concern is this. This is also a team that last year got in trouble. They beat they beat Toledo for the MAC title a year after 4 of its players were suspended hours before the MAC title game. And they lost 75-55 in that game. And that haunted that team. It kind of drove that team all year. And when I look at this matchup, Brian or Steve, the thing that scares the hell out of me is these guards because I know he's a volume shooter to get 17.6.
All right. Well, let me ask
but
you this,
Sincere is sincerely a consistent contributor.
All right. Well, let me ask you this, Mike, or Brian, whichever one. The thing that kind of concerns me about Mike a little bit is he's kind of gone to this one starting lineup, and he hasn't deviated from it at all. Now, that could be a good thing, or that could not be a good thing. In this case, Robert Stewart brings up a good point. Does Gallo start on Sincere? Do you get somebody more athletic to go with their bigger guard? And then I would put Galloway on the other guard because Galloway is a feisty little shit.
Well, Sincere.
So, I mean, change it up a little bit. I mean, really, what good is Miller Kopp given to that team in the first 5 minutes? Take a Miller Kopp and set him as a 6th man and say, all right, we need a couple threes. We're putting you in now. Crowds you coming in. Drill some threes for us.
But then who do you put in? If you don't have Cop in there, who do you put in? Tamar?
Gallo.
Well,
Huh?
you got Gallo.
Galloway.
You got Bates. You got Gallo. You got Bates.
Somebody.
We got an echo.
We got an echo. Why do you have echoes?
All right, we good.
No, whoever's got the
Whoever's got the damn internet service
sucks.
All right. Keep talking, Brian. All right, it's you,
Well,
Brian.
Well, the only thing I would say is that
Brian.
all right. So the only thing I'd say is you talk about the 3-point percentage. If you looked at their regular field goal percentage, it's not great.
No, they do it off volume.
They do it off volume. They actually rebound the ball pretty well, but they win with defense.
And they win with defense.
Okay,
See,
yeah,
it's this dumbass.
Brian's.
Yeah, it's definitely you, Brian.
It's definitely you,
Brian,
Brian.
you got to fix your internet.
Fix your internet.
All right,
Jump off,
reset, and come back on.
Is that better?
I don't know. It only
I
happens.
don't know.
No,
It's not.
Goodbye, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Later.
Later. All right. So what I say is this. I know we got, like Michael says, we need to start 3 guards, Race and TJD. I don't know why you'd want to do that, because to me, the advantage for us is underneath the basket with Race and TJD. Also,
well, Michael's talking about starting 3 guards.
Can't see you, Brian. I know.
See you,
And
Brian.
to me, it doesn't make any sense because it takes away our advantage underneath the basket. I mean, we have to control the tempo.
Well,
in
if
this
you go
game.
3 guards and Race and TJD, what are you giving up?
Well, you're giving up. I think this is only
Why can't
my
you play
opinion.
Bates as the 3rd guard?
My opinion is this. I believe we need Malik Renew in the game. I believe he's better than Race Thompson.
All right.
And Malik has played really well.
I just think you maybe want to shift this up a little bit because it's one and done. You don't have the luxury, Mike, and I'm not telling you anything you aren't smart enough to know. Right now, I think of the 5 starting people, I think the Cop is the most expendable to start. I don't in a situation where you've got a very athletic front court or back court, and I don't see Miller Kopp as an overly athletic player.
No, he's a decent athlete.
He's a decent athlete, but Galloway gives you balls to the wall when he's on the court. I like him. I like the athleticism of a Gallo.
I think Galloway has to be in.
Huh? Yeah, I think he's got to start.
And see, Michael says Malik and Cop routine. I from what I've seen of Malik, I think that we are missing big time not playing him all the time. I believe he brings energy. He attacks the basket. He's very aggressive. Yeah. And outside of Trayce and outside of Trayce and Safino, we don't have another player that is extremely aggressive. I mean, Galloway is on defense, but I'm talking offensively.
Right. But this is what kills teams is coaches get egotistical.
Brian, can you hear us? I can't hear Brian.
You can't hear Brian.
All right. I don't know.
What this is where coaches get egotistical and think they can outcoach you with the same thing and not willing to make changes. I mean, if you ever watched the movie Patton, Jesus, George Patton, I stopped short of saying GC.
I know you
proud of me.
I appreciate it. I'm very proud of you, Steve.
But Patton changed his strategy in his lineup for every battle he fought. He flanked differently, maneuvered differently, used different parts of his regiment, his army. He had the third army, and Woody's got to be willing to do that. And right now, I don't see the continuous starting lineup he's used as being the best starting lineup.
I don't either.
For Kent State.
I won't believe, and I think Bates needs to play.
And I don't care. Problem with any player.
Yeah, I don't care if it's 2 guards or 3 guards. The only thing I know is they have to switch correctly, and they need to not give up open threes.
Well, we switch well, but we're just not. We need to be more athletic.
We don't switch well all the time, and that's what concerns me.
You're right.
Because if you get a point in this game where you go 5 minutes where you're not switching well, they've got guys that will chuck threes, and if they get hot, especially Sincere, this game's sincerely over because they're going to be down 15 points before you know it. It's my only fear from this game sincere, has to be guarded. And the thing that concerns me is if you guard him with Hood Schifino, he likes to take plays off. So you can't guard him with him.
Yeah, I think Robert and Michael both brought up good points. We have the ability to become more athletic real quick.
Yeah, but I believe Galloway is the guy I would put on him.
I would put Galloway on their leading score on their point guard.
Robert agrees with us. So
Robert agrees with us. I get Robert on.
Robert's a smart guy. Robert, if you don't have an echo, we'll let you come on the show.
Yeah, Jesus. As long as you don't echo.
Yeah. Come on, Brian.
Or promote your wife all over the place.
I can tell you this. The D is the key for all five on the floor all the time. But that has been the case all year. When they play defense, they can beat anybody. When they don't play defense, anybody can beat them.
Mike, let's look at it this way. Good perimeter defense is going to take the pressure off the bigs inside and keep Trayce and TJ out of foul trouble. And we've got to keep them out of foul trouble because there are scorers. There are point getters. There are rebounders. We all know that, but we're an inside basic team. Basically, we're an inside play team. We're not a point guard team.
You know, the thing that concerns me about Kent State is this, and I know that I saw Brian make a comment on Facebook about the close Houston loss and Gonzaga and how will they still lost. But the thing is this, when you look at this, the three best non-conference foes they played, Charleston, and Charleston's a team that can make it, I think will go to the Sweet 16. They lost at Charleston by 2. They followed that up. They had a lead on Houston with like 3 minutes left to go. They lose to Houston by 5. They had the lead with 4 minutes left at Gonzaga, and they lost 73-66. So I think what people are trying to tell you, Brian, because this is my answer to his Facebook question, is this. It's the big deal is not whether they won the game or not. The fact that they played Charleston, Houston, and Gonzaga that tough says that they're not going to be afraid to play Indiana, and they have the players capable of staying in the game, which is what you've got to do to be able to pull it out at the end as an underdog.
Mike, I don't think there are many teams afraid to play Indiana right now.
I think nowadays I don't think there's too many teams.
We haven't earned that
anybody.
reputation yet. We have not gotten to that level of respect yet. Back, we'll get there.
It'll take a while.
But it's going to take a while. Yeah, it's going to take some big wins in the tournament, and winning a couple Big Ten championships would help a little bit. Even though they're worthless and they don't really carry a lot of clout.
They mean nothing.
We have wearing your players out.
It'd be nice to win a Big Ten regular season, though, for the hell of it, just for old time's sake. All right, Michael says Ball State Big Ten. What the hell does that matter, Michael? I mean, this is the thing.
Ball State's very well-coached basketball.
Ball State is a well-coached basketball team. Ball State is in the MAC, but this is the thing. It's a conference game, Michael. They play all the time. How many times has Indiana lost to a team they shouldn't have lost to? I mean, we went, 4 years without beating freaking Rutgers at one point.
Let's go Iowa twice. Let's go Northwestern twice.
Yeah, it got blown out by Iowa the second time.
Yeah, it wasn't even a close ball game.
And I know that Iowa is a better team than, Ball State. But I also know this. You can go down every one of these teams, and they've lost to somebody they shouldn't. I think way too much gets read into that. I mean, Ball State was a solid team this year. I don't know what their record was, but I know from looking at them, I know they lost to Indiana State, but Indiana State won 22 games this year. They beat Missouri State. Missouri State was a team at one point ranked 15th in the country. They lost to Vermont by 5. Vermont's a team in the NCAA basketball tournament. So, I mean, it's a conference game. It's kind of like
let me address Michael's comment here. Big Ten is stronger than the MAC. Let me tell you something, Michael, and everybody else listening. Conferences don't matter anymore. It's how much heart you have. And I'm gonna tell you what, teams like Kent State who don't really have a big reputation or who are talented basketball teams, they're the most dangerous teams in the tournament.
And we see it every year.
Every year they knock off the Indianas, the Dukes ripe to be picked off, Purdue's ripe to be picked off. I think Houston's a little overrated. I think Gonzaga's very well coached, and I think Kansas is a good team that's very well coached as well.
Yeah, and if you look at this, Steve, I'll give you this also. I believe Toledo, who won the regular season MAC,
Yeah.
is better than a team or two that made the tournament from the Big Ten, and they got screwed. I mean, they were like 28-6. They beat NKU. They won the MAC regular season title. Yeah. And the thing is this, Kent State was probably overall the best team in the MAC. This doesn't matter which conference is better. It's whose team is better.
No, that's the point I was trying to make to Michael. I don't care about conferences right now. It's roll the ball in the court and it's 5-on-5.
And true, they target the bigs. Michael, what's true? They target the bigs mean because
he's talking about the big schools.
But see, that's bullshit.
It's bullshit
I don't buy that because
more...
you have to take everybody as a big. Indiana has to treat Kent State like they're a big.
Mike, look at it this way: Kent State has nothing to lose by playing Indiana.
Yeah.
They're expected to lose.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe
versus a 4 seed. Well, by
but not by them. They have everything to lose. This is their season. If you're a senior, this is your last game.
They're thinking they can play with anybody, and
because they've proven they can.
Team.
The number one seed in this tournament, they had to lead on with 3 minutes left.
And Gonzaga, which is a perennial,
and Charleston, which I think will be a Sweet 16 team. They went 28-5.
And did Kent State win their conference championship this year?
No, they won the tournament. Toledo, I think
Toledo won the regular season.
I think Toledo belongs in the tournament. They were 28-6, and I wish they would start letting the second or third teams in, just so we don't see the Big Ten and the ACC with half their teams out in the first round, as has become common. You know, why not let some new blood in? Because when you look at the coaching in the Big Ten and the ACC, it has dropped dramatically over the last couple decades. I mean, the best coaches in the Big Ten are who? Matt Painter.
Well, I don't know that he's the best coach.
Tom Izzo. No, I said the best coaches are Izzo. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 good coaches.
Yeah.
And everybody else. I mean, come on, Juwan Howard. McCafferty.
I mean, the guy from Iowa is a good coach. The guy from Illinois is a good coach.
The guy from Illinois sucks. The guy from, the only really legit good coach anymore is Tom Izzo.
Mike,
he's old as hell.
It's not a good show if I don't get you fired up, razzled.
Well, I mean, Juwan Howard's a dumbass. Fran McCafferty's a douchebag. I mean, the guy from Illinois is just an idiot. I really like Fred Hoiberg. I know everybody think I'm nuts, but I think they're going to keep getting better in Nebraska.
Well, I'm going to tell you the other thing that's going to balance out college basketball, too, is nil money.
It won't balance it out. I think it throws it into more disarray.
You think it goes the other way?
Well, because, if you play at Kent State, probably not a lot of nil money. If you're the best player, if you're the star guard, you might get some money. Yes, I agree, Michael. The Northwestern coach Collins. If you don't look at history and you just go off of what I saw this year, Collins is the best coach in this conference. I mean, that team was not highly talented, but he got a lot out of them.
He got them playing as a unit very well together, and they were I hate to say this because I'm going to piss people off. They were a better coach than Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that. That's why he was coach of the year. He coached better than everybody
else.
I
take nothing away from Mike.
Hey, he beat Purdue. He beat Michigan State. I mean, hell.
But I think that they were, just a little bit better coached team and built the teams kind of the same way. Only they built theirs more around guard play, and we built ours around our bigs.
Yeah, and that's coaching because you built
around
coaching,
guard play. And both did a great job. I mean, Mike could have. Yeah. I'm sure Mike got some votes for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, in college though, guard play is what matters.
Oh, it's proven out. It's bearing out right now.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, when you look at the second round here. And we got an update. Fairleigh Dickinson is up 54-40 all over Texas Southern. I know everybody couldn't wait to hear that score.
Oh, is that one of the playing?
Later tonight, Steve Alford leads Nevada against Arizona State. And I believe Michael, who listens to the show, his son is like the associate AD. So we wish Steve Alford good luck tonight. Once a Hoosier, always a Hoosier, right, Steve?
No, you don't wish Steve Alford good luck.
Dude, I love Steve Alford. The only problem is I went and watched him coach in the first 4 a few years back. And I don't know. I just wasn't impressed. I mean, I stood and watched him coach. He spent more time just yelling at officials than he did coaching his team. You get a TV timeout, and he's going to scream at that coach or scream at the ref for almost the entire time while his assistants tell him what to do.
I turn on the TV here to find the basketball game. Was it on ESPN or what channel is it playing games?
It's probably like True TV or TBS.
True TV, yeah. And I got another damn car chase going through L.A. These idiots, there's a car chase daily in Los Angeles.
Hey, real quick, Robert, I agree Penn State and Northwestern have better guards, but also realize this. They were 4-0 against us. I mean, we lost both games to Penn State, one really bad. We lost both games to Northwestern. And, you know, I'm not saying they have better guards than Kansas State or Kent State, but Kent State's one guard is a very good basketball player who could cause us a lot of trouble. Michael says the game's on true. Robert says good luck to Steve Alford, and I do, genuinely. Steve Alford's one of my favorite Hoosiers ever.
I like Steve.
I just have issues when he coaches. And Michael with a go Wolf Pack. But
I didn't like the fact, though, that Steve never got me on to play Sherman Oaks golf course or Riviera out here in L.A.
Here goes Robert and yep, Iowa, and we row into against Iowa. So that is what I'm afraid of.
Okay, Mike, what do you think are the three keys for Indiana to do?
The three keys are
to beat Kent. Let's just focus on Kent State.
Defend
if they win, we'll do another show Saturday morning.
Well, we're going to do one Saturday morning. We either got to wrap up everything Saturday, or we're
not wrapping it up yet.
We're not wrapping it up. Well, if they lose,
God, sorry guys, he's a negative Nilly all the time.
Dude, I've grown up a Bengals fan, and I watched Bobby Knight get fired.
You got it right.
Reggie Miller left. I grew up with the Big Red Machine, and now the Reds have sucked ass for 34 years. So yeah, I'm negative.
Mike, aren't you glad I didn't call the Bengals by the other name I usually call them?
You're the most negative person with your Colts also. So
no, they're not the Colts. They're the Dolts.
But you're negative with the Colts. But I can just tell you this. I believe Indiana wins the game because Trayce Jackson-Davis is on the floor. I think he wills them to the game. I think if they play Miami or Florida, they go to the Sweet 16. If they play Drake, that is a game that I think is a complete 50-50 toss-up. So I would normally cheer for any 12 seed over a 5, but I do not want Drake to win.
Okay. I think the keys to this win for Indiana are to be willing to change things up quickly. If they didn't go with the starting lineup changes, go with your starting lineup because that makes you feel more confident, makes you feel better. But be willing to make the athletic changes we may need to make.
Well, how about
because we can't withstand a 1-point loss to Penn State. If we do, we will be wrapping it up Saturday morning. We can't do that. I want to see Mike be able to understand that. This isn't the NBA. This isn't, you got a best of 7 thing to beat somebody.
It's completely, what you're saying is this. It's completely different coaching one and done than it is in the regular season.
And in the NBA. And Mike does not have a lot of experience at that.
There's no one and done in the NBA unless you're in a game 7. And you played 6 games to get to that. So that's 7 and done.
So what the key to me is Mike's adaptability as a coach. I think that's key. The key is for Trayce and Race to stay out of foul trouble. We can't pull them off the court unless we want to give them a breather.
Malik
and Tamar. I mean, we got to get guys. And you know what you said, averaging 9 turnovers a game
it's 9 steals
a game. Indiana is sometimes very lax with the basketball. They don't make really dumb passes or bad passes, but they just throw lazy passes. And, you got a team that can make steals on you. Dang, that's like being stronger on the offensive boards. They neutralize that with stealing the ball from us 7-8 times and scoring on half of those. We score 10 or 12 points off offensive rebounds. You're washing that advantage we have out there. So
see, this is the thing. The way I would play this, and I agree with Robert. He says, get him with up-tempo guard play, offense and defense. What I would do against Kent State is this. I would randomly, maybe 1 out of every 4 times they bring the ball down the court, trap the hell out of them. Just to try to throw them off their rhythm, to make them uncomfortable. Because anytime you have a guard that's that good, if you're trapping, you can get the ball out of his hands. And when you get in the half-court defense, you get him on a wing, get him on the baseline. He catches the ball, trap him immediately, make somebody else beat you. Because this kid is good enough. If he gets hot, we will lose. You cannot allow him to get hot.
What you're saying, Mike, is Indiana's got to be willing to do something different than they've been doing all season long.
Yes.
To throw them off.
And this is the thing. If you want to make it to the Final Four, you got to do that.
Knight was a master at that. Knight was a master at being able.
The thing I remember the most, Steve, 1987. 1987, they played UNLV Running Rebels with Stacey Ogman and all those guys, Gerald Patio, and everybody. I remember I watched this game the other day, the Final Four game, and Billy Packer to start says, well, I guarantee you, Knight will want to slow it down because if he gets in a running match, he's not going to win. And what they did, they came out and they ran. And they ran UNLV into the ground and beat them 97 to 93.
UNLV wasn't in good shape.
Because I guarantee you this, UNLV never expected Indiana to come out and play fast break basketball with them. And the other thing about that game is Knight used 10 guys in that game. And he just kept running at them because he pressured deep on the bench. And the thing that was the best is they had a guard named Mark Wade who could not shoot to save his life. And if you remember in that game, Steve Alford was supposed to guard him. Alford just double-teamed on Patio, who was their best three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. They left Wade stand all by himself, wide open from 15 feet, and he would not shoot the ball. He would even get to 10 feet. They wouldn't guard him, and he would still pass the damn ball.
Hey, Mike, that was like me in the championship game. I wouldn't shoot the ball. I'm thinking, I'm kind of enjoying playing here. If I take a shot, my ass is going on the bench, and Friends is coming in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, and this may sound weird, Michael, but when he says go to 7 to 8, I think he can go to 10 if you're bringing these guys into press and play defense. Yeah. I mean, you might as well. And the other thing about it is this. If you only go 7 or 8 guys here, that's great, but those guys got to be studs. We've all seen
Indiana's
teams
proven they can go deeper, Mike.
Hey, but this is the thing. I in a tournament situation, remember this. I don't know what time we would play on Sunday, but you're going to have less than 48 hours rest. So if you only play 5, 6 guys and Drake and Miami is playing with 10, there's a big issue.
I'm telling people that are listening to us, every one of these games is intense.
Yeah. I mean, these games are all toss-ups. There's very few. When I look at these brackets anymore.
16 versus 1s are walk-off games. Other than that.
Well, Virginia will argue with you about that. Yeah. Remember them when they got knocked off by UMBC?
Oh, that made me feel so good. Kyle Guy got his ass handed to him.
So even if
the guy that allegedly broke my scoring record at Lawrence Central High School, when he didn't break it, I proved it to him. And you know what they came back and said? They said, he's the modern era scoring champion.
Ooh, that's even worse.
I'm thinking that's a bigger slam than saying you cheated and gave him the points. The modern era, I'm not dead.
And Robert says Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky will get run out of the building by Houston. I've seen them play a few times in person this year.
Yeah.
Northern Kentucky is a well-coached team that won't make mistakes. They may stay in the game for 10 minutes, maybe even a half. Houston will run them in a great. The Houston team is really good.
Houston's a team to beat in this tournament, I think.
I think it's Alabama, but I think Houston's good.
Okay, we'll see. I think gun control kills Alabama.
I think Alabama kills.
Okay.
That was mean and rude. Somebody died. I'm sorry.
But
yeah, when I look at this, we go down to brackets. The 1-16 matchups are all pretty much we know how they're going to go. Yeah. When you get to 3-14 games right now, you never know.
Games.
Yeah, I mean they're not toss-up games, but
then you got to look at the historically.
Hey, 2-15, Arizona, Princeton. Princeton slows it down against Arizona. Who the hell knows what happens?
Well, historically, the Big Ten does not show well in the first weekend.
Yeah, and my issue here.
Historically, they don't.
I can tell you this: Purdue, Memphis, or Florida Atlantic are both really good, and then on top of that, if you beat Memphis or Florida or Florida Atlantic, you got to play probably Duke or Oral Roberts. I think Duke or Oral Roberts are both good teams. I think Tennessee versus Louisiana will be a good game. Everybody in Purdue's bracket, except for their first round game, are good teams. And I also would like to send prayers out to Providence Friars, who play the Kentucky Wildcats, who I flip and hate. So we need a Providence Friar win like 1987 when Rick Pitino, cheating bastard, took him to the Final Four.
Ernie DiGregorio.
I just think Billy Donovan.
Marvin Barnes. Didn't Marvin Barnes play for Providence?
I think so. He was on the team that made it to the Final Four in '73 with DiGregorio, wasn't he?
The original Captain Coke.
Because I think they lost to Memphis while Indiana got screwed by the officials against UCLA and Bill Walton.
I went over and played in Europe, in Italy for a while, and I was on Team Treviso, and he was on Team Venezia. They ran his ass out of Italy.
Did he suck, Steve?
No, he was just a cokehead.
Everybody in the NBA was a cokehead in the 70s.
I know, probably. All right, let's get out of this thing.
All righty. We will be back Saturday. You want to call it like noon, Steve?
Sounds good to me. And it's 9 o'clock my time? Sure, why not?
9 o'clock your time, and we will wrap up Indiana's
first
round.
Wait, that's in the middle of NASCAR qualifying.
Nobody cares about NASCAR qualifying. But if you do care about NASCAR qualifying, you can go check Steve out on Stuck in the Catch Fence
with
Joe
tonight.
Spillman and Ryan Peters. I didn't call him Pierce that time. So
9 o'clock Eastern time.
Balin, thanks for checking in from Scottsburg. Michael says, I think we can beat Houston out. I think that's
Michael. I think you've been smoking alligator crap again.
And Michael, by us saying that doesn't mean we can't win a national championship. I mean, what I'm saying is this: somebody else could always beat them, and then we don't have to play them. You guys in '81, St. Joe's beat DePaul.
Yeah, everybody kept beating the big teams, and we didn't have to play them. And we played in Assembly Hall. So
and Robert, thank you for the congrats on the grandbabies. Yeah. And also check out Michael's Red Chair group. And, of course, Brian Mohr's Got Woodson Facebook page, which is awesome.
Two of the best pure IU basketball Facebook
We just need to get Brian so he doesn't have an echo when he's on. Memphis scares me, says Michael. Florida International is really good, too. The Scottsburg Warriors, Balin says, plays in the semi-state in Seymour on Saturday.
Is Dan Dockage coming down to call the game?
They don't let Dan Dockage in most of the state anymore. He just goes and hangs out with Kent Sterling so nobody sees him.
Or hears him.
Hey, be nice.
Okay.
Kent's our friend. Kent's our friend.
He is?
Kent's our friend. Yes. Hey, Steve, I got a question to ask you. Today, Tom Brew wrote an article about the 3 Big Ten teams in the NIT. And he said, this is exciting because this is their chance for redemption. And I said, how do you redeem yourself playing in the NIT? And he said, well, it's really important because you can ask your friend Steve Risley how important it was to him. My comment was it was important because they beat Purdue. It was also important because there was only 32 teams in the NCAA tournament. And I said, when we made the NIT a few years ago, me and Steve both thought it was a complete waste. Do you think you can redeem yourself from a bad season by winning a game in the NIT, Steve?
No. You know what was important to me about winning the NIT?
What?
We got to play in Madison Square Garden, a basketball mecca. That was probably the thing in this day at 64. And my wife just went to New York on a trip with her girlfriends last week, and they went down to the south side. And they came out of the train station, and right there was MSG. Because, oh, well, my husband played basketball in there. Your husband played in Madison Square Garden? And so, to me, the biggest thing about winning the NIT was playing 2 games at Madison Square Garden. And having that on my resume that I've got to play basketball.
Hey, and also, since you beat Purdue in it means lifetime. You won
Anytime
more games.
You beat Purdue,
you won more games against Purdue than they won. So, yeah. But, he's got a show for his article that he wrote about the NIT. Nobody cares about the NIT. I put it like this: Xavier won the NIT last year. And I've covered Xavier for years.
I think we have a banner. Tom, you wrote a book called Missing Banners. I didn't see anything about the 79 NIT championship. That's a banner hanging in Assembly Hall.
Yeah, but it's not missing.
Its own banner, too.
But it's not missing. It's not missing if it's there, Steve.
It's not missing.
Yeah, see. So he'll have to write a book about the banners.
But
and I bet he would leave out the 79.
There's a guy that thought the 80 Indiana Hoosiers were better than the 81 Indiana Hoosiers. Nah.
No way.
No way.
Isaiah was much better than 81.
The 80 team
Knight had turned him loose by then. Knight turned him loose
the 80 team, I played on both of them. the 80 team had nothing for Isaiah.
Man, I bet Tom would be very condescending to you and tell you he's watched basketball for 50 years.
No, he and I have gotten at it before. He's a good guy, but
Hey, and Michael, we know the NIT is hanging, and it shouldn't be, but it ought to just be 1979. We beat Purdue at Madison Square Garden.
And Ohio State.
Were they in there too in the Final Four?
Yeah, we beat them in the first game. Then it was three Big Ten
and that
teams.
is something. If the tournament was 64 teams, all three of you have been in the NCAA.
Don't you know the significance of that? 79, 3 Big Ten teams in the NIT.
I don't think it's significant.
And the national championship game was a Michigan State, a Big Ten team, against Indiana State. So pretty much
the Big Ten team.
Huh? No,
Indiana
but they were an Indiana team. Last time I heard, Terre Haute's still part of Indiana.
Well,
although we're trying to give it to Illinois.
Well, don't say we because you're in LA and
I know.
you probably need to get back here.
I'm not.
You need to get back here as quick as you can before California
trust me,
falls off into the ocean.
If it wasn't for my damn wife, I would be back in Indiana.
Well, she's in New York right now. You should have just come back to Indiana. You could have
back
sat on my
here.
lap. We could have done the show.
She's back here and going on a cruise to Mexico in 2 weeks.
All right. Balin says, go Raging Cajuns, beat Tennessee. I believe this. I believe
Let's get out of here.
I believe Louisiana can definitely beat them. Robert says, ugh, California. Guys, we will be back.
California, Robert.
We will be back Saturday at noon to wrap
Eastern
up
time.
the first round game and hopefully talk about a second round Indiana game on Sunday. Make sure you follow us on Grilling Truth, at Grilling Truth on Twitter. Okay. Michael, thanks for letting us know all the colleges that are in Indiana that play Division I college basketball. You forgot Butler, who has probably done more in the last 20 years than all those schools together. No, he's got ND. He's got ND.
Oh, he does have ND.
He also forgot Valparaiso.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who had Bryce Drew hit that shot.
The Drew family? Heck yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Grilling Truth. Make sure you like, subscribe, everything on YouTube because we will do this show even when the season's not in play. We'll talk maybe some old Indiana Pacers. We'll talk Indiana high school basketball. We're going to have a lot of guests on. And
if you're a NASCAR fan, Stuck in the Catch Fence tonight at 9:00 on our YouTube channel.
Look at that. Balin must watch your show on Stuck in the Catch Fence in YouTube. He says, have a good evening. He says, Steve, have fun doing your boring NASCAR show with Spillman.
Balin, I'll tell you, it's boring because I got two guys that are taking it seriously. I've gotten chastised routinely by those two, by Spillman and Peters, the two other guys. They ripped me a new butthole because I'm like, hey, guys, this is NASCAR. Have fun with it. And they're like, oh, no, we got – and the big penalties put out today. Oh,
so,
look,
guys,
Michael Joseph.
Guys,
Spillman,
all I can tell you
WTF?
is this. What I want everybody's homework tonight is this. You're going to go ahead. Joe, you need to chill out and understand what's going on, and I believe you're taking this a little seriously. But what I want is Saturday morning when we come back to do the IU show, I want everybody watching this show to go to YouTube, check out Stuck in the Catch Fence, give us some feedback, tell them if it's boring or tell them if it's a great show. I think it's a great show, so you go check it out. Tell me what you think. But for now, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to wrap this up. Check out the Grilling Truth, at Grilling Truth. Go like our Facebook page. But for now, for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to the Grilling Truth, where the legends